and this is the All Around Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we are going over a Q&A. We're doing the live stream of the Q&A question and answer, and also we're going to be going over a few topics I have set up for each of the four major sport brands, which is the NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Now, we know a lot of action has happened already as far as many of these leagues go, but I have a few of them that I have set up here on my little list here. And then, at the near end of the show, near end of the stream, I will have a 10 bold predictions list for my bold predictions of the 2024 NFL season. So, if you guys do enjoy this live stream, please be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Today's video is presented by My Life Patches. Now, these patches are really good to use. They help awaken those stem cells. You can place them on, there's different types that you can use. You can use some that go on your back. It'll give you a little instruction manual that will tell you where to put the patches on your body. And it helps awaken stem cells. It can help lose weight. It can help with your cravings. It can help lower your mood or anxiety. It's really, really good to use. I'm just going to say that right now. It's really good to use. I've been on them for a little while, so I know how good they are to be used. So I'll have a link down in the description here in a little bit. But for the crowd in the audience, if you guys have any questions for me, be sure to drop some down in the chat room down below. And for now, let's get this thing started. Just had to do that little horn for sound effect. But first things first, we're going to start off with the MLB and go all the way around. So first, starting off with the MLB, the Rangers, the Texas Rangers, are currently on top of the MLB of the AL West, and they are they are currently in a battle with the Seattle Mariners for the top of the division. But the question is, can the Rangers go back to back? We know they won the title recently, but can they go back to back? I believe there's a possibility because we know they're probably going to make the playoffs, but there's a lot of teams in the American League on the rise, including the Mariners, which I did not expect to be this high early, which in previous years they would kick it in a little late, the Mariners would. But the Astros, they're weak right now, which I'll be going over them in a little bit as also. But if you look at the American League, this league is getting hard-nosed. You got the Yankees that are back. You got the Orioles. There's many teams in the American League that are on the rise. So we'll have to see what the Texas Rangers can do. But I think their percentage of chance of doing so is 60-40. 60% maybe yes, 40% no. But moving down to the NHL, the Canucks, one of the surprises of the season, came out in the season to win the Pacific Division for the first time since the 2013-2012 season. And the question, and so many people have overlooked this team, but the question is actually, are the Vancouver Canucks being overlooked? I think they are, because they've been able to force multiple great games. And they're currently playing the Edmonton Oilers. They'll be playing them against them later on today. And I really believe that this is a really good situation for the Canucks. I mean, I'm not sure if they can get to the Western Conference Final because it's the Edmonton Oilers, and the Oilers have been the team of the West this far since the Golden Knights got knocked out. But I think that the Canucks are going to put up a fight with the Edmonton Oilers. but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But moving up to the NFL, the first NFL topic, the Chargers have been a least talked about team since since Jim Harbaugh got into office as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. But the question is, are the Chargers a sleeper team in the AFC? I think they could be because of a few reasons. First of all, they're far more better than they were last season. They got new weapons to surround Justin Herbert. They got new weapons to surround him and Brendan Rice and countless others. That's number one. Number two, their defense is going to get better because we know Jim Harbaugh is a big defensive mastermind. He's a great defensive mind. And he coached in the NFL before. He's coached in the NFL. He coached the 49ers back when the Seahawks beat him in the NFC Championship game. And he's good at producing quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy was 27-1 as a quarterback under Jim Harbaugh. And now that you bring him in to LA, a part of the Chargers organization that hasn't won anything, this is a big opportunity for Jim Harbaugh to make a statement early. I think that they're going to be a contender for the playoffs, but we'll have to wait and see what happens when they enter into the season. Moving down to the NBA, during Game 6 of the Bucks and Pacers, it was found that Patrick Beverley was throwing a basketball at fans, not once but twice, and he ended up a little late after the game. A few days later, he would be suspended for 4 games. We don't know if there's anything more that's going to be pounded onto this, but the question is, was Patrick Beverley's antics out of line? I believe they were, because Patrick Beverley. Now I've watched basketball for a few years, and from what I've noticed on some clips I find on YouTube, is he is a hothead. He is a hothead, and people that are hotheads normally do this, and you need to control yourself because you impact your team, you impact your coaching staff, you impact everything. And if you're Patrick Beverley, you're going to be suspended 4 games next season. And Patrick Beverley, he's been a part of multiple different teams. He's been with the Clippers, he's been with the Lakers, he's been multiple teams. I can't even name all the teams he's been on. Patrick Beverley is kind of like the Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors. And Patrick Beverley, he needs to calm down. And because if he continues this way, he's not going to be in the NBA much longer. Because at some point, the NBA is going to break. And let me tell you all something. I know a little bit of Dan Stern. And if this was Dan Stern, he would have kicked it in immediately. Adam Silver is kind of soft. He's not hit it hard on him for the past few times that these situations have come across. And the fact is that Patrick Beverley's just needs to get under control. And he's had these situations multiple times. I have a feeling that 4-game suspension is probably going to be bounced up to 20 games if the NBA seems fit to do so. But his antics were out of line, and I'm thinking he's going to be suspended for another couple of games. But moving back down to the Major League Baseball, the Braves have been one of the few teams to actually be very competitive for the NL to the National League as far as their competitiveness goes. They won. They won the title actually 2 years ago. And the question is, are the Atlanta Braves still a National League threat? I believe they are, because The Braves have always been in this position, but they've been knocked out the last 2 years. I believe both times was the Philly, if I remember correct. And they got great pitching staff. They got great hitting group. They got great batter group. I believe they're gonna win their division, and then become at least one of the top two seeds. But of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But moving back down to the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs were almost on the comeback of beating the Boston Bruins, which would have made the Bruins the first team in MLB, NBA, and NHL history to lose back-to-back 3-1 leads in back-to-back years. But it was avoided due to Pasterchek because Mr. Pasta in Boston. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but I do know his Pasta was his nickname. But the question is, and also, the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach did get fired. So we will see who becomes the new head coach in Toronto. But the question is, what was this? Was the Maple Leafs collapse a bad thing for the franchise? I believe so, because they've been eliminated now in the first round 3 times out of the last 4 years. And, excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning all of a sudden. I really do believe that this is going to be a potential situation, because you got guys like Austin Matthews, you got loads of other guys in there, and I just don't think that this team is ready for the next step, which is to contend for a title. And I just don't know if that's going to happen or not. Oh, and by the way, for those of you just tuning in, the link for the sponsorship of this episode is down below, so be sure to go and check it out when you guys get a chance. But anyways, moving up to the NFL. Yep, that LifeWave information. Moving up to the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings have been overlooked a lot lately since J.J. McCarthy came into the NFL from the NFL draft. But the Vikings do have a really good offensive unit around them and defensive units. But the question is, can the Vikings be a NFC sleeper team? I believe they could be. I believe they can, because the Vikings, they got already a great offensive unit there. They already got great offense. You got, you got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, and also along with TJ Hawkinson. And these guys are really good. They all are really talented. And you add along with that, you add in the likes of Dallas Turner into an already dangerous defense, along with Jonathan Greenland or Jonathan Gennard from the Houston Texans last year. That's a big move, because the Vikings, they're always a threat. They're also known as, in Tom Grazi's eyes, the black, purple, and yellow incarnation of Satan, pretty much, which I can agree with him on that. But the Vikings, I think, could be a sleeper team of the NFC, and maybe let alone the NFC North. But moving down to the NBA again, the MVP of this season was Nikola Jokic, even though lots of people think he shouldn't have won it. But the question is, should Nikola Jokic have been worthy of his third MVP? I don't think he should have been, because he was already performing bad when he first met up with the Timberwolves. They're currently down 2-1, which they'll play later on today. But a name I've had thrown out there, that I've thrown out a little bit. Now, I haven't said this on my channel, but I think one of the considerations, one of the candidates that came in second, should have been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous was a sensational player for this team, for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He led them to the 1 seed. The Nuggets are the 3 seed. Or, 2 seed. My bad, 2 seed. And the Thunder, they have the best record in the West. I mean, they had the best record in the West. And yet Nikola Jokic still beat him out. I get this guy has a championship. But Shai Gilgeous, he was with the Clippers. He was with the Los Angeles Clippers before he became the star at Oklahoma City. He was a part of the Paul George trade. And he had the chance to knock it in his team's skull, his former team's skull, when they advanced in the first round by sweeping the heck out of the New Orleans Pelicans. But we'll see what happens, but Shai Gilgeous should have won the MVP. He should have won the MVP super badly. But moving back down to the MLB, the Dodgers have been one of the toughest teams, especially with the new arrival of Shohei Ohtani. But Shohei Ohtani is actually dealing with a back soreness or back tightness, according to him. But the question is, are the Dodgers getting too much attention? I believe they are, because here's the thing. I don't understand something. They've had 2 100-win seasons, and one of them was a World Series of about 4 years ago. And we're treating this like they're a World Series contender. I mean, they're right about the whole contender thing, but Shohei Ohtani's not played in a postseason game yet. He's not even played in it. Not even during the time when he was in the Angels organization. And he's not good. Shohei Ohtani his name keeps on getting thrown out there. It's not like he's won a championship, for crying out loud. He's the face of Japan, but he's not the face of the Dodgers. We know who that is: Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. And they're treating this like they're immediate contenders. You still got the Rangers to get through if you get to the World Series. You still got the Braves. You still got the Phillies. You still got multiple teams that are in contention with the Dodgers. And we're treating them like like they're already World Series contenders? I mean, really? I mean, it's not like Shohei Ohtani has made a playoff appearance. He's not even made one in his career, which he might do this year, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, because many times when the playoffs come around, that's when we see their true colors, which we'll see what Shohei Ohtani's is. But moving down to the NHL again, to the Rangers. The New York Rangers have been one of the toughest teams. They have the Hurricanes did avoid elimination last night to the late game antics by the Carolina Hurricanes, but they have swept 2 opponents this far. They were almost on the brink of sweeping 2. They were almost on the brink of sweeping them twice. And not only that, but they also have been one of the toughest teams. But the question is, are the Rangers a Stanley Cup contender? I believe they could be, because they look really, really decent. And they've led the league in scoring. They've had the most points in the game. They've had the most total points. And I truly, soul-heartedly believe that the Rangers or the Florida Panthers will make a finals appearance. And then if they do, they'll have to go through someone down in the West, which we'll see who that is and if they will be a contender and if they can really finish the job, because they haven't won a championship in a while. So I don't even know, as a matter of fact, when they won their last title. So moving back down to the NFL, who the NFC West has been stacked. The NFC West is stacked this year. But the question is, who will win the NFC West? Now, I'm not going to go out biased here and say my team, the Seahawks, because I know we're not on that level yet on competing for the division. Have to see it first. But if I am going to throw out a name, I'm going to throw this one out because the Niners' recent history, when being runner-ups in the NFL of the Super Bowl, I'm going to go with the Rams. That's right, I said it, the Los Angeles Rams, the guys that just lost Aaron Donald. And why I say this is because not only is Aaron Donald not there, but they still got lots of pieces. They added on Brendan Fisk, they added on Jared Verse, and also along with Cameron Kitchens, who is a guy I wanted for my Hawks, but man, they robbed it from us. Dang it! But anywho, the Rams are still dangerous. They made it to the playoffs and they won their first game against the Seahawks in the regular season opener last year without Aaron Donald and without Matthew Stafford. And I know it's the Seahawks, but they're still a tough team. And they put up a fight with the Ravens last year in that week game that they lost in overtime. The Rams are still a threat, and I think they're going to win the NFC West this year. The 49ers are not going to three-peat as divisional champs, but we'll have to wait and see. Moving back down to the NBA, to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler made comments on a time when he was caught in the social media area of somewhere. I don't know exactly where in the social media post. But he said, according to what people were able to uncover, he said if he was healthy, that the Celtics and New York Knicks would be at home right now, which was then later on evaluated by the owner of the Heat, which was Pat Riley, which we all know is a great head coach and a great owner who has had that old school type of mentality. But the question is, was Jimmy Butler's comments fair or foul? I think they were foul because here's the thing. Pat Riley's always thrown out this saying, you need to have a ring in order to do that. You need to have a ring in order to talk about that. And Jimmy Butler hasn't won one yet, nor has the Heat. They've made 2 final appearances in the past 5 years. 2. And they have no championship to show for it. And Pat Riley, he has that Heat mentality. He's the one that invented the Heat culture. And he said, now I believe this is what he said. Don't quote me. But I believe he said that if you don't have a ring, you can't say that. Which is exactly what I'm saying as well. Because Jimmy Butler, he is an amazing player. But we know he is a great talent. We know Jimmy Butler is amazing. And he was injured. But you don't, if you're on a bench after you just got a gentleman's sweep by the Boston Celtics, you cannot go out there and say that. That's going to draw a lot of media attention now. Because now Pat Riley could potentially trade him. Pat Riley could potentially trade him away. Where would he go? Maybe New York? Boston? I mean, he could trade him away after he said that. Because that is unacceptable in Miami. It is unacceptable in the Sunshine State. Unacceptable. But anyways, that's my topic there. That's my thoughts there. But moving down to the MLB again, let me see if, but first, before I do, let me check the live chat. Oh, just the stuff. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me mute myself for just a second. All right, just had to talk with someone real quick. But back to the MLB. The Yankees have been one of the toughest teams in the Baseball Association as of late. They were, I believe, if I remember correctly, they were 6-0 in early parts of the season. But since then, they've kind of been on a derailment, and including Aaron Judge's first ejection as a Major League Baseball player. And also, along on top of it, Aaron Boone has been ejected a few times too, which his ejections are really goated. They're really great to see as a person that despises the Yankees. But the question is, are the Yankees a World Series contender? Now, I believe they could be. I'm going to give them I'm not saying, I don't think they're going to be a threat, but I think they could potentially be up there because this team has the potential. But it's been their pitching staff that has been the main fracture of this fan base for some time. They've been the main fracture. The pitching staff has been the main issue with this team. And I mean, you got Garrett Cole, but you don't have any other guys other than him. And you need to have someone that can do that. And I just don't think that this is going to be a great scenario for this team. Hold on, let me get something done real quick. Hold on just a second. Hang on, guys. All right, but I don't think the Yankees are on at the level of where they are. I don't think they're at the level of like the Rangers or many teams. I don't think they're at the high range of many teams. But we'll see what happens. But the Yankees, I might want to keep my eyes out for them because if the Mariners meet them in the playoffs, we don't know what to expect. Because they've been the thorn in the Mariners' side for years. But anyways, moving back to the NHL. The Oilers are currently facing the Canucks, but they ain't got a game 3 tonight. But the question is, with the Golden Knights now out, are the Oilers the favorites to win the West? I believe they are because Connor McDavid is an amazing star-studded talent. And if the Canucks can't knock him out, then they might go to the Stanley Cup final. Because if we look at the other matchup, it's either Colorado or Dallas. And we know that those three teams right there that I just mentioned are really tough opponents. The West is a gauntlet of teams. Every year, there's been a different champion. In fact, the last 2 years have been won by Western teams, including the Vegas Golden Knights, which I'm a Vegas native of. And I truly believe if the Oilers can get to the Stanley Cup final, then they could win it all, which I'm hoping happens because I want Connor McDavid to finally get his ring. I want him to finally get it. Kind of like Alex Ovechkin. Except I wasn't rooting for him at that time because the Golden Knights were the ones facing him. But anywho, moving back up to the NFL, the Lions were one of the most. Oh man, the Lions, they were so close. They were so close to making their first Super Bowl appearance. And man, I was rooting for the team, but oh my gosh, it was just an awful time watching it. And if I was a fan of the Detroit Lions, I would probably be feeling like this. Hold on. Oh, wrong one. Oh, there it is. because they were so close. They were so close to reaching the Super Bowl, and I was pulling for them. Just because A, I was rooting for the Lions, and B, I didn't want the Niners to go. But we all know what happened later. But the question is, can the Lions get to the Super Bowl? I believe they can, because here's the deal. They might have a tough division to go through in the North, but the rest of the NFC is wide open. The only other two teams outside of the North that are contenders are the 49ers and the Eagles. No other teams out there except the Cowboys, which we all know are frauds every single year. But other than that, the Lions have the best opportunity possible. And if they can pounce on the opportunity, I believe, and I've made this prediction early. I've made this prediction early into the offseason. I've made this Super Bowl prediction. I have the Lions meeting up with the Texans. Now, let me explain. The Lions, I do believe, are one of the tough teams. I do soul-heartedly believe that the Lions are one of the tougher teams. But the Texans, they're up there too. But we'll see what happens. But that's an early Super Bowl prediction I have. Y'all can have yours, but that's mine. But moving back to the NBA, the Suns. The Suns got knocked out in round one to the sweep that they got by the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the question is, should the Phoenix Suns break up the big three? I think they might have to, because even though it wasn't their fault, you brought Bradley Beal in, who has not been a thing, and he's not even performed in the playoffs. And they got swept. And their owner, and correct me if I'm wrong, he said that they are one thing away. He said they would be back next year. Are you a Cowboy or are you a Sun? I mean, really. The Phoenix Suns ownership, one of their, I believe it was one of their coaches or one person in charge of basketball associations. I believe he said that we need to unlock but we can be the only team to unlock the full potential of Kevin Durant. Well, excuse me, correct me if I'm wrong here. Kevin Durant won 2 titles with the Golden State Warriors, if I'm correct. And Kevin Durant, he's already been unlocked. He's been in multiple places. He's been with the Thunder at the early parts of his career, which should still be called the Sonics. And then also along with the Warriors, where he won the 2 titles. Then it was Brooklyn, and now Phoenix. He's been multiple places. He's only won 2 championships in Golden State. Nowhere else. And I truly believe that this is a bad situation for the Phoenix Suns. Because you were a big 3 to be reckoned with. And you failed. You got swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Got swept. And the Phoenix Suns need a lot of help. And they are nowhere near a contender as long as those guys are there. Or something needs to change. But moving back down to the MLB. The Astros, a team that I happen to be a secondary team fan of. There's been a lot of talk about the Astros lately since they're losing ways. They currently sit, last I checked, 4th place in the AL West. But the question is, should the Astros be concerned about their record? I believe they should, because not too long ago, they were in the playoffs, and they were playing the Texas Rangers. They ended up getting beat out. They need to come back. I mean, I'm concerned for them right now. I'm honestly concerned, because here's the thing. There are multiple teams in the AL American League on the rise. including the Mariners, who has beaten you for the past few years, for the past few times, except that one playoff match. This, I believe, the Astros need to do something. They have to do something. And if they can't regroup, then they're toast. If they can't regroup fast, and I know it's early, if they can't regroup fast and continue losing, they're not going to get very far. They're not going to get very far. I'm just going to say that right now. Moving back up to the last of my NHL topics, which is the Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights got knocked out by the Dallas Stars in Game 7, but it was Adin Hill that was the starting goaltender, who was 1-2 in the series. Meanwhile, Logan Thompson was in total 2-2 in his starting roles in his first playoff appearance. But the question is, was the Golden Knights season a failure? I don't believe it was, because you can't win them all. You can't win every single championship. Can't win them all. Because the Golden Knights, defending champions, never normally make the playoffs. But the fact that they got back into the playoff picture at the near end, avoiding getting eliminated, that's a win. Because the Golden Knights are still one of the toughest teams in the West, but not this season. Because the Golden Knights will be back next season. They will be back. And I'm not a Cowboy fan, but they'll be back. We know how tough they are. We've seen how tough they can be. They made 2 Stanley Cup final appearances since they became a franchise, which was 6 years ago. So the Golden Knights will be back, and they'll be back with a vengeance against those Dallas Stars. But moving back up to the NFL, but first let me check to see if we got any chat action. Nothing there yet. Okay, so back up to the NFL. Rashee Rice has been in a multitude of incidents. And the one that stuck out the most was the crash in Dallas, and then later on got fouled out got accused again for hitting a photographer. But the question is, are the Rashee Rice incidents fair or foul? I think they're foul, because here's the thing. Dallas, they've got crazy people. I mean, they got Cowboy fans. They got Cowboy fans everywhere. Cowboy fans are everywhere throughout the entire place. And Rashee Rice, both those incidents have happened in that city. Get the freak out of Dallas. Get out of Dallas. Because I don't know, but the Cowboy fans have a way. Cowboy fans have a way. And I believe it's some of them that are creating these incidents. Now the accident was not on their hands. But I think it's the environment. And knowing that the Cowboy fans are right around the corner. It's all that. And he needs to get out of Dallas. Because he's already going to be suspended half of the season next year. Which they still are not, the Chiefs are still not getting Metcalf. To that one Chiefs fan that's saying that. Because all those fake rumors of DK getting traded, it's not going to happen, my friend. It's not going to happen. But anyways, moving back up to the NBA. It's LeBron. It's about LeBron. These next 2 NBA topics are going to be about LeBron James. But LeBron, after being gentleman's sweep, or more like very much swept, because I believe the Nuggets purposely gave that game to him. After they got swept by the Nuggets again, their coach, Darvin Ham, got fired. But with the current situation going on in LA, they have not been a contender for some time. But they did make the Western Conference a few years ago, and then got ousted in the first round again to the same team. But the question is, should LeBron James leave the Lakers and go somewhere else? I believe he should. Because in the Lakers organization, you're never going to win a championship there because they've had that championship culture. They could have kept every single person from that championship squad in 2020 there, but they didn't. They ousted them. They traded him. They let him go. And the Lakers management has not been on point lately. And I believe this playoff loss is primarily the ownership's fault. Because Darvin Ham was young. He was only there for 2 years. And now Darvin Ham's gone. But here's also another part of it. There's been lots of rumors saying now that LeBron could go play with his son Bronny. Well, the NBA draft lottery just happened today. So if he's one of those top picks, which he's highly likely not going to be, he would have to go to his son's team to play with him. But if that team happens to be the Knicks, which I'm not saying it is, but it could be interesting if he does go to New York. Or potentially goes back to Miami. Who knows? But anywho, back to the MLB for my last topic about Major League Baseball. The Mariners. The Mariners have been up in the fight zone of the AL West title, up at the top edge of that point for some time, and they are currently second place of the AL West. But the question is, are the Mariners a sleeper team in the American League? I think they possibly could potentially be. Because they are one of the toughest teams out there. They've never made a World Series. And you look at their squad, they got pitchers, they got hitters in Julio and Cal and many other guys on there. And this team has been threatening. They broke a 21-year curse 2 years ago. And I believe they could be a threat. I'm not saying they're going to make the World Series. But if they can get there, that would be huge to the city of Seattle. But back to the NFL, because we're out of NHL and MLB topics. So let me cross those out. Okay? Back to the NFL. The Raiders have been at work since the offseason. They brought in Gardner Minshew, Christian Wilkins, and countless other names around their squad since free agency and added it on in the draft by getting Brock Bowers, which not a lot of people expected to go after him, including myself. But the question is, since the Raiders did in fact beat the Chiefs last year, can the Raiders challenge the Chiefs for the division? Now, I don't think that the Raiders are going to win the division, but they could likely challenge. Because people are saying they don't have a quarterback. They actually do. They in Gardner Minshew. Minshew almost led the Colts to the playoffs last year. He almost led them to the playoffs. And I think this is going to be a big year for the Raiders. Because the Raiders, they are looking stronger now. They are getting stronger every single year. And now that they got a top 10 defense, scoring defense, for the first time since like 2002 when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to their former coach and then came back, John Gruden and the Bucs. This is going to be interesting because the Chiefs did get beat by the Raiders last season just by defensive scores. Now, we could see that happen again, but not on Christmas Day. But we'll see because the Raiders are going to challenge the Chiefs. I believe they could challenge them. And I do believe that this team is going to be a threat. And I do believe they could probably maybe make a playoff appearance. But we'll see. But moving back to the NBA, which the NFL and NBA are two of the top leagues we got left. Back to LeBron. After losing another head coach, he is now on to his 10th head coach, whoever that head coach is going to be. But the question is, for the LeBron James, is having 10 different head coaches a concern about LeBron's GOAT status? Of course it is. Because Michael Jordan only had one head coach. And he's got 6 rings. LeBron has 4. And nobody, and I mean nobody, not even Bill Russell, who I wasn't even near where he was born when he was around, and Michael Jordan, there's no one ahead of him. Nobody. Not even Bill Russell. Because the NBA was on a downward spiral at that point until Michael Jordan hit. Until Michael Jordan came. He revived the NBA. He revived it. In fact, if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, if it wasn't for MJ, we probably wouldn't be watching the NBA right now. We probably would have waited for the NFL season to hit next, or NHL. And the fact is that LeBron James is not in the GOAT conversation. In fact, if I had to make a tier list, I would put Michael Jordan at number 1, Kobe number 2, Stephen Curry number 3, and LeBron James at number 4 for those top 4 guys. But LeBron James has never, ever been in the GOAT conversation in my eyes. He is a crybaby. I'm not showing any disrespect to LeBron at all. But he's complained to the refs multitude of times. I mean, you notice when he went against the Celtics 2 years ago, when that foul wasn't called, he was on the ground. I mean, really? You're not the GOAT. You are a superstar. You're on the Mount Rushmore of the NBA. And you do not just go out there and just have temper tantrums. I mean, not even MJ did that. I mean, he might have done it a few times, but not as much as LeBron. But back to the NFL. The Falcons, I wanted to talk about this team. The Atlanta Falcons have been one of the sleeper teams I believe have been slept on because of the Michael Penix signing. Because of drafting Michael Penix, which not a lot of us expected, including myself. But the Falcons still have one of the best offenses. But the question is, are the Atlanta Falcons a sleeper team in the NFC? But we did see the Bucs last year. They went to the playoffs. They beat the Eagles and almost beat the Lions. Could we see that again? Because the Bucs are going to be going for 4 straight titles in the division. And I do believe the Falcons are going to be a contender for the division. But they need to get something going. Because the Falcons have not won a Super Bowl. They made a few Super Bowl appearances and still are known as the biggest choke in a Super Bowl in Super Bowl history with a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 51 where they lost to Tom Brady, which is the GOAT of the NFL. But I do believe the Falcons have the potential to be a threat because they have one of the high offenses. They got Drake London, they got Kyle Pitts, they got loads of guys on their offense. And the Falcons, I believe, are going to be a playoff team next year. I'm not sure exactly which position, if they're going to win their division or not, or be a wild card. But we'll see what happens. But let me see if there's anything going on in the chat room right now, just to see what's going on down there. Nothing yet. Okay. So I'll move on to my next topic of the NBA. Let me see, which one was it? Yes. The Knicks and Pacers series. I wanted to go over this because of Game 1 and Game 2. Game 1 and Game 2 had some controversial calls, including a kickball that was called that was really off the hand of one of the Pacer players, and then later on got called for an offensive foul. But the question is, did the officials get the Pacers Knicks calls right in Game 1 and 2? Now, this is a hard topic for me. Now, I do believe they got it wrong because the kickball, of course, was very much wrong because it went off his hand. But I think because of the angle it went in the angle, They thought it hit off the leg, but I mean, some people have said that the NBA is scripted, which might be the case. But the whole thing of the offensive foul, remember, in the NCAA tournament, a similar call was made between Iowa and UConn. And it was against UConn. Offensive foul in the last few seconds of the game. Same situation. That is a difficult call to make at that time. Because normally the officials don't make the calls at that time. But they do, as a matter of fact, may call it if they do deem it worthy. It was the right call, but it's not the right call in that situation because Pacers could have taken game one if it wasn't for that offensive foul, probably. But anyways, moving on from this topic, wanted to go back to the NFL because the Bills. I want to talk about the Bills, and the Bills have been one of the toughest teams in the AFC East as far as the last few years. But recently they lost Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. But the question is, with all the players that the Bills have lost, are the Bills still an AFC contender? Oh man, I do believe they could still be a threat as long as Josh Allen's there. Because here's the thing, Josh Allen, he's a good player. He's really good. And Josh Allen, this is going to be the first big test that he's had playing without Stephon Diggs. Because Keon Coleman, he's a good player. Keon Coleman is amazing. Keon Coleman was with Florida State. That probably would have made a national title appearance if it wasn't for Jordan Travis getting hurt, who is now with the Jets. But I do believe the Bills are still an AFC threat. The Bills, I truly, soul-heartedly believe, are still an AFC threat because the division, it's not that hard to get through. I mean, you got the Patriots, who are god-awful. You got the Jets, who we never know what to expect from them, even with the bad man. And then there's Miami that can't play in inclement weather. My point is, the Bills, even without Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, they could still be good because they still got Dawson Knox, they still got Dalton Kincaid, they got James Cook and Keon Coleman. The Bills, I truly, soul-heartedly believe that the Bills could still be a threat, but we'll have to see it first. But moving back to the NBA for a second, but let me see if there's anything in the... Neutron 84. Hey, watching from the UK. Hey, what's up, man? If you have any questions for me, be sure to shoot them down me in the chat. So I'll be going over topics, and then I'll be answering them in between, and then I'll be going over my top 10 bold predictions for the upcoming NFL season as well later on in the show. But back to the NBA. I wanted to talk about the, Knicks and Celtics. The Celtics currently hold a 2-1 lead against the Cavaliers after winning a game yesterday against them in Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Knicks are currently battling the Pacers right now, which I'm not sure what the score is, but I'll probably take a look at that after the stream. But the question is, can the Knicks challenge the Celtics for the East? Oh my goodness. I mean, they were able to beat them once. They were able to beat them in the late parts of the season. So, I believe they could challenge them because, let me explain. Kristaps Porzingis, I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but Porzingis has been out. And it depends, if they can win a championship, he has to be healthy. And the Celtics have not been great shooting lately. They've not shot very well lately. They did the last time, but they haven't really this time. Because the Celtics, I believe, are still a title contender. But the Knicks, they've been playing really good. They have been playing pretty gosh darn good. And I do believe that this team is going to be a really decent one. But we'll see what happens. But I just saw something pop up in the comments. In the chat. Let me see what that is. Making a solo trip to Nashville from the UK for 10 days. So I'm getting into American sports so I can see something while I'm out there. Hey, that's a good idea, my man. That's a good idea because I know in the UK there's a lot of lots of stuff going on up there, and I know soccer is a really good big thing up there from what I know. Them and that in Mexico, and then let me go back to the NFL here. The Eagles. I wanted to talk about this team now. The Eagles, they're already set up for a Week 1 matchup in Brazil, actually, because this is the first game in Brazil, I believe. And the Eagles are set to meet the Packers, which that is going to be a heck of a game in Week 1, which is still many months away. But the question is, are the Eagles the NFC East favorite ahead of the Dallas Cowboys? Or as I like to call them, the Choke Boys. But I do believe the Eagles are the favorite to win the NFC East because the Eagles, they are stacked. The Eagles are stacked with talent. They got Cooper DeJean and Quinton Mitchell in the same draft, who are two really good star-studded corners. And you already add that to an already dangerous defense. I believe that the coordinators were the primary issue last year with the Eagles because we know that the Eagles were 10-1 coming off the bye. They were 10-1 coming off the bye. And then they lost. They had one of the late season collapses, including one of the 5 losses to my Seahawks, which I'm still shocked about to this day. But the Eagles, I believe, are still a threat. And fun fact, whenever the Seahawks play the Eagles, I never underestimate them. I mean, my team has had their number for the last few times because they've been undefeated against them since Pete Carroll came into town. But still, I never underestimate them. Never ever of the Eagles because the Eagles, they are such hard-hitting physicality, physical mentality, all of their offense and defense. They're known as the Dirty Birds. They kind of share the same nickname with the Atlanta Falcons too, with the Dirty Birds reputation. But we'll see. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But let me see if there's anything going on in the chat room. Nothing recent. Okay. So back to the NBA, which I have 3 topics left to go in that area. Which the first one of them being the Thunder and the Mavericks. The Thunder have lost to the Mavericks recently in Game 3. But they are still right there in it with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But the question is, can the Thunder beat the Mavericks? I believe there is a slim chance. I'm going to give them 50-50 chance because the Mavericks have been in this position for a while. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are still a younger team. The Mavericks have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, who have been 2 really good players. They've been 2 really good players. They've been a dominant duo. And I do believe that the Mavericks could potentially meet up with the Timberwolves if they do get past the Denver Nuggets. But we'll, of course, have to see what happens there. But it's anybody's game because these 2 teams are so similar. But back to the before I go back to the NFL, let me check the chat. Nothing. But if you guys have any questions for me, be sure to shoot some down to me in the comments. But back to the NFL, sorry. But NFL. I want to talk about the Steelers. The Steelers, after getting Russell Wilson, have already gotten a lot of comments saying that Russell Wilson's an upgrade of their 3 recent quarterbacks. But they got new offensive weapons along with defensive weapons. But the question is, are the Pittsburgh Steelers an AFC contender? I don't think they're an AFC contender because they haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. And also not only that, but Russell Wilson's their quarterback. And he's not even performed well yet. He's 11-19 as a starter at Denver. He's 11-19. And Russell Wilson, I believe, is washed up. Because here's the thing. The Seahawks hadn't won a playoff game since 2019. I've looked at it recently. And when he got his paycheck, he diminished. Russell Wilson was mediocre then after that Super Bowl win. He was mediocre because Russell Wilson will only want his payday and to spend time with his girl Sierra, for crying out loud. And the fact that they're in Pittsburgh, I truly believe they're not going to be good because their defense is good, but you got to have an offense willing to score the points. You got to have an offense, which the last time y'all had a good offense was with Big Ben by your side. But back to the NBA here. But the Steelers, they're not threatening the AFC. But we'll see what happens there. But the next topic I wanted to touch on is Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray was fined $100,000 for throwing a towel and heating pad onto the court in Game 2, where the sideline was getting very frustrated. But the question is, should have Jamal Murray been suspended? Of course he should have been suspended. I mean, is there any question? Because Jamal Murray, let me talk about this man. He's never been known for these situations. He's never been known for these type of situations at all. But when you throw a heating pad onto the court that it doesn't have any grip to the hardwood, that is a flagrant act. Flagrant. Without question. Because that is a danger to player safety. If Karl-Anthony Towns would have stepped on that, he probably would have broke something. He probably would have broken like his leg, ankle, anything. It could have been anything. And the fact that it was right there in the way of the play, and luckily the Denver Nuggets players were able to get it out. Were able to get it out of there to avoid any further injury. That is a flagrant act. And Jamal Murray should have been suspended for Game 3 and maybe even Game 4 as well. He should have been suspended. And I know that lots of people don't want it because it's the middle of a playoff series. But we'll have to wait, but we'll see. But Jamal Murray should have been suspended. But moving on to the next NFL topic, I have three topics left to go in total. So we're almost at the break of our 10 by 10 bold predictions. So the Chiefs, they've been one of the top teams in the NFL after going back-to-back for the first time in 19 years since the New England Patriots did it back when in the Brady era. But the question is, can the Chiefs pull off history by completing the three-peat? Now, I don't believe the Chiefs are going to three-peat because that is a lot to ask. That is a lot to ask of the Kansas City Chiefs because the AFC is already a stacked gauntlet. Now, Mahomes, certainly has the capability to do so, but it's just never happened. And the fact that it's never happened, I don't think that they could do it. But we'll see. We have been doubted before about the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, we doubted them last year when they went to the Super Bowl, even with a weak wide receiver core. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Chiefs. But last topic of the NBA, the Timberwolves. After getting off to a 2-0 start against the Nuggets, they lost 2 days ago to the Denver Nuggets in Game 3. But the question is, if the Timberwolves can beat the Nuggets, are the Timberwolves a title contender? Now, I believe they could be because Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, he's got a killer mentality that Michael Jordan used to have. And as a matter of fact, back when the Thunder, Magic, beat them out of the playoffs, when they met that following year, the Bulls' defense was hard nosed. They barely allowed them any points, and absolutely blew them out of the building, and then ended up sweeping them. The Timberwolves got that same type of mentality of defense. They've got a strong-willed defense. And even though they got a little exposed last game, I still have them picked to win the series. But we'll, of course, wait and see what happens in the transformation of that time. But let me see if there's anything in the chat room before we go to the final topic of today's video. Nothing new yet. Okay, so the Seahawks I wanted to talk about because it is my team. It's my team that I'm a fan of. The Seahawks went 9-8 for the last 2 years, but with new head coach Mike Macdonald under new management, he's been one of the top guys under the radar. But the question is, with him there, are the Seattle Seahawks a sleeper team in the NFC? I don't believe they are yet. But if they could be up there fast, and if they can get a win like against the 49ers or the Rams, at least once, then we might have a situation on our hands. Because the Seahawks have the talent to go there. They have the talent. And they're growing. They are massively, dramatically growing. Loads of people didn't even expect us to perform well under Geno the second Russell Wilson got traded out. Nor did I until we faced him in week 1 of 2 years ago. And I truly believe the Seahawks have the potential to be a sleeper team. But I don't see it yet. Because all people say, you got to see it to believe it. And this is one of those scenarios. I'm not rooting against my Hawks, but it's a high ask for a first-year head coach to get them to the playoffs. But now, the moment all of you have been waiting for the current viewers in the chat, this is my 10 bold predictions of the 2024 NFL season. But before we get to the top 10, I did want to throw out a few honorable mentions that I did not put on this list. The first honorable mention is the Chargers getting 9 wins. Because I think they have the mentality to get 9 wins, especially under Jim Harbaugh. You got Justin Herbert, and you got multiple other guys. But this Charger team is going to get 9 or more wins this season. And then the second honorable mention is Byron Murphy wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. Byron Murphy's been left out of this whole Defensive Player of the Year conversation already, but I think he's being slept on a lot because Aaron Donald, he was slightly smaller than Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy's a little bigger. And he is a beast, let me tell you. He's a beast. He was amazing in Texas. He was incredible. And now that he's with the Seahawks, who had trouble with their defensive line, he is going to be a key impactful player for this team. And then the last honorable mention I have on this list, outside of the list, is the Seahawks will have a top 10 to 15 defense. Because Mike Macdonald is a defensive mastermind. And I think he's going to get that defense worked early. And I think he's going to make this defense stronger than it has been in recent years. But now let's get to the top 10, my top 10 bold predictions of the NFL season come next season. Coming in at number 10, I have J.J. McCarthy winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, let me explain. Lots of people have been putting Caleb Williams in this conversation, but not much about J.J. McCarthy. Because J.J. McCarthy, He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, and TJ Hawkinson. And they already got a strong enough defense to do so. And an offensive mind like Kevin O'Connell, he's going to change up this team dramatically. And I believe he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And this is an early prediction. Early prediction to note. But next up, at number 9, I have the Bills getting past the divisional round. Because not a lot of people are going to expect this. But I'm one of those few that could. Because the Bills, even though they're without Stephon Diggs, even though they're without Gabe Davis, they still got Von Miller and other guys on the defense, along with countless guys on offense, including Keon Coleman, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. So we'll see what happens, but I have the Bills getting past the divisional round for the first time since the 2020 season. But then at number 8, I have the Rams winning the NFC West. Now, I'm not putting my team in there because I'm not that biased. But the Rams are going to be a really tough team next year. They are going to compete for the division. And I believe just because the past years, in the last few years that the 49ers have been runner-ups, there's been a different division champion every time. So we'll see what happens, but I have the Rams early predicted to win the division. And at number 7, I have the New Orleans Saints winning the NFC South. Now, the Saints have not been put up in this conversation, but I believe they have the potential because Cameron Jordan and Chase Young in the same backfield, this is going to be a tough duo to deal with. It's going to be a dangerous, fearsome duo to deal with in the front line. But this team is going to be decent next year, and I believe they'll win the NFC South. But number 6, this one I wanted to put in here because it's a high possibility. I have the Texans winning the number 1 seed of the AFC. And let me explain. The Texans have looked tougher this year. They have looked decent. And if they can get the 1 seed, they would host the playoffs. And you know that Texan environment. They have never got past the divisional round. But I believe they have the potential to if they can get the number 1 seed. And if they can, they could be a dominant threat in legitimate eyes. But number 5, I have the Colts sneaking into the playoffs. Because last year, they didn't make the playoffs. But this year with Anthony Richardson, I believe they will. Because Anthony Richardson was performing out of his mind before he got injured. And the way that he was playing, the way that he was talking to his teammates, it is mentality. And he's got the strength to get his team over the hump of making a playoff appearance. But we'll see what happens in 2024. But number 4, and I took a lot of debate into this one. I have the Chiefs losing 5 or more games because the schedule is going to be very, very tough. It's going to be super tough to get past. And the fact that the Chiefs are in the toughest division on turf, toughest gauntlet on turf in the AFC, they are going to have a challenge on their hands, including playing the Texans for the first time next season. I have the Chiefs losing 5 or more games next season. At number 3, I have the Detroit Lions making their first Super Bowl appearance. Now, they were super close to this last year, and I believe they can make their first Super Bowl appearance this season because I believe that this team is going to be decent. I believe this team is going to be back and hunting with a purpose, and I believe this pride, the Lion pride, will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl next year. Number 2, I've got the Raiders going into the playoffs. The Raiders are going to be highly doubted this year, but I have them as a sleeper because their defense is amazing. Their offense is incredible. I mean, some people are saying they don't have a quarterback, but they have Gardner Minshew, who almost led the Colts to the Super Bowl to the playoffs last year, I might add. But this Raiders team is going to be dangerous, and I believe they'll make the playoffs next season. And number one, my top bold prediction for the 2024 NFL season is one that might shock some Steeler fans, but I have this on here. I've got the Steelers having their first losing season under Mike Tomlin because of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he has been diminished for the last 2 years. And the fact that he's in the Steel City playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers where they've already booed a lot of quarterbacks at home, and the fact that he's going against three of the toughest defenses on turf in the Ravens, Bengals, and Browns, I believe that that's going to be a threat for them. And their defense is good, but their offense isn't. And I think that's going to be a big key role in this season. And that is going to come back to bite them in their behind. But let's recap the top 10 bold predictions I have. I have J.J. McCarthy winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bills getting past the divisional round. Rams winning the NFC West. Saints winning the NFC South. Texans getting the number 1 seed. Colts sneaking into the playoffs. Chiefs have 5 or more losses. And then Lions make their first Super Bowl appearance. Raiders get into the playoffs. And then lastly, the Steelers have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin. But that's my live stream for today. I hope you all enjoyed. And remember, we will be here next week on Sunday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. We will be here 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, and 5 o'clock Eastern. We will be here on this channel doing another Q&A. We'll be doing it of the NFL next time. And until then, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you all in the next live stream. Ciao for now.